Hello, everybody, and welcome to our weekly demo. We are so excited that you are here to hear an awesome presentation. Today, we're just going to give everybody a few moments to get situated, so grab some water, coffee, stretch your legs, whatever you need to do in the next 2 minutes, and we will get going then, but just going to let everybody filter in. Thanks so much. If you're just coming into the meeting, we are just going to give everybody about 1 more minute to get situated and enter. So thank you so much for your patience. All right, looks like everybody is here and we are ready to get going. And so again, thank you so much for joining us today for this awesome presentation. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, Joe.
Sounds great. Thank you, Madison. I appreciate you all joining me here today for this presentation. That the subtitle is C-Suite and Board Reporting with Jupyter Notebooks, and I've decided to take that a step further and call it Landing on IO, which is one of the moons of Jupyter, because we're speaking specifically to one type of audience. Now, Jupyter Notebooks has a lot of different capabilities, and we have a lot of different reporting capabilities here, but I want to help you focus in on one really important set of conversations that you would need to have with the data that you get from the AttackIQ platform. I'll start first with who I am and how I'm presenting all this information to you today. So my name is Joe Mastromarino. I am a New York City-based sales engineer here at AttackIQ. I've been here for a little over a year and a couple months now. I've been in IT for over 18 years, most of that time being in security. I also have a very long financial services background, so certainly I've had a lot of time making presentations to higher levels and executives and so on and so forth. Also have a long background in incident response and forensics and a long SIM background, so working with all of the controls that I'm sure all of you work with every single day. What we'll go through in this presentation is I want to talk about storytelling and why storytelling is important. Then Jupyter Notebooks at a glance and how they can help you be able to tell those types of stories to someone really in your C-suite, your board of directors, how you can take the very technical content that you may have in a platform like ours and be able to abstract it to a point that you would be able to have those really value-driven conversations. I'll also show you a demonstration of how that works in the platform, as well as show you some of the output that you would get from it. A storytelling overall is an ancient art. We can think about it for as far back as time recorded, both written down and from verbal history as well. So we've always needed to be able to tell stories in order to be able to make people think differently, drive action. We always do it through stories. And if you can put data behind that story, it makes it even more impactful. It makes it even more powerful. You want to be able to then do what the story says afterwards because, well, you've seen the data behind it. So how can we help you to get that data behind the story that you want to tell? Whether that's you're doing very well in your security program, or you need additional resources, you need additional funding in this portion, or you need another person over here, or you need another tool over here that does this, or some extra time to get some more instrumentation to be able to detect this type of attack or stop this type of malware. To that end, Jupyter Notebooks can be a really valuable tool to help with that type of storytelling. And in this talk today, we'll go through one example of that. We'll go through one story of that so you can really help kind of wrap your mind around the way that you would use this and the way that you'd be able to get the information and be able to tell that story to drive action. The focus of this type of talk is going to be, and we have a number of different types of talks and tiers for this, but let's just give you one for this talk today. The presenter is going to be your CISO, your security team. Your audience is going to be your board of directors. So these are people that are not going to be really that directly hands-on technical, but they are people that are going to drive direction and drive decisions for your organization. The question is, how can you demonstrate your security posture against relevant threat groups that the board of directors would know about, and show them where we've improved, as well as where you can put some focus on to fix any gaps. The desired reaction is that you want the board to be able to see those results and support your budget, support your prioritization of security and risk projects. Are they going to be able to support the things that we say we need to do next? And that's why we need to put data behind it. Now, assuming that the reporting that you've created here has been embedded into some type of report or slide, and I'll show you how you can do that. You should then be able to confidently present the detection and prevention organizational security posture, as well as how the threat actor campaigns, whether it's a threat actor group like an APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, or a piece of malware, a piece of ransomware, how are these things emulated and how are they relevant to the business? Then you can discuss which behaviors have coverage or where that gap may exist. Are we doing well against this group or this piece of malware or not? It's going to give you a very clear color coding for a red-green status that says for anything that's red, you can discuss what projects you have, any actions that are in progress to remedy that, to fix that. And what may be needed outside of what's currently within the capabilities of the tool set that you have right now to close that gap, and how investing in those tools will help to close that gap, and why is that important to the business. Now, Jupyter Notebooks, what are they? I've mentioned this term a couple of times already, but we haven't really gone over what they are. So if you're not familiar with them, a Jupyter Notebook is going to be a way to portably take a series of code, match it up with some text blocks, and be able to use that code to leverage APIs, create visualizations. And that's really what we're doing here. It comes in really three main pieces. You have text blocks that are usually going to come in the form of a markdown. A code block, and in our case, it's going to be Python that we're using for these code blocks. And then the visualizations that come as a result of them. I'm going to show you exactly what one of these looks like in the context of AttackIQ. Now, that's Jupyter Notebook in a concept, but how do we use it here at AttackIQ? Well, what we do is we take threat actors and we take a look at their campaigns. We take a look at the cyber threat intelligence, the CTI that's available. And we then craft those campaigns into what we call an attack flow or an emulation. And it looks like this, what you see up here in the top right of the screen. Each of these boxes represents an individual action that an attacker would take during their campaign. Using the AttackIQ platform, and I'll show you what this looks like in a demonstration in just a moment, what that will do is you can then execute those scenarios on any number of endpoints that you have inside of your environment. Replicate the types of network calls that they would make, the types of registry keys they would change, the types of files they would write, the types of processes they would start. Each of these then gets represented in such a way that you could say whether or not you stopped the activity on that endpoint. And this will be the visualization that you get really at the down at the hands-on keyboard level. But then what will happen with the Jupyter Notebook is that it will take all of this information for this campaign, for this run of this campaign, and then for all of the campaigns that you're running, see now 3 different threat actors here, you can then abstract that all the way up and say, am I able to stop this attacker's campaign or not? That's what this graph is trying to tell you. And that's what this Jupyter Notebook will be able to abstract out and create. Each of these boxes, of course, representing a different success or failure of a different control inside of your environment, because we're not only testing one control at a time, we're testing a series of controls in your stack when we run one of these campaign emulations. And it could be any number of these threat actors. You could look at it point in time, but then you also have the power of being able to do a historical performance graph too. Something else I'll show in the demonstration. Point in time is fine. It's even fine for something like a penetration test, but how are we doing month over month? And do we have any drift? Has anything happened over the course of this quarter, this year, that may have left us exposed to one or more threat actors that we're concerned about? And the Jupyter Notebook will be able to pull that information out as well. It leverages our API. It pulls back all that information, transforms it into this spreadsheet that you see in front of you. And then you'll be able to have that conversation to say, we're doing better here, we're not doing as well here, so we need more resources. Whether that's more people, more tools, more time to better the instrumentation and the policy set that we have. There's lots more information, of course, that is available for the practitioners, but really we're going to try to keep abstracting this up as much as possible so that we can drive that conversation with the C-level, with the board of directors. Now, I've talked a lot of concepts right here over the last 10 minutes or so. So how about we get into a demonstration of the platform here? Let's do that. I'm going to shift my screen for just one moment and get over to here. Now, if you've ever seen a demonstration of the AttackIQ platform before, what it does is that it takes a series of content, these attack scenarios, and it runs them on an asset, one or more. Assets that you have our agent installed upon. Our agent is very lightweight, doesn't hook into the kernel, doesn't provide protective capabilities. It's really there sitting and waiting for work. In this case, the scenarios that represent a campaign from attacker group, APT, Advanced Persistent Threat number 29, Russian nation state threat actor. The attack graph, so that you have the context, because you need to have this context in your mind when you look at that report to say what happened here. Well, over the course of this attack graph, what will happen is that we're going to exercise different security controls inside of your environment using this sequence of events. Trying first to download initial access, malware to the memory and to the file system. Does this get through? These boxes here, if prevented, if not prevented, what they represent is the result of the agent itself when it runs it. Was I able to do my job or not? Or did a security control stop me? When you get past these, what happens is these just say that whether or not I'm prevented doesn't matter, just move on. And I get to step 2 right here. I get to this rapid collection of file script, exfiltrate files over HTTP. We change the logic a little bit here. And we say that the prevention of this scenario will terminate the campaign at that point. This is important because when you're looking at the report, you want to be able to say where you stop the attacker. Of course, you have it, but if you don't, then you need to be able to say where. And all of the data to back you up is going to be right here inside of the platform. So I can go through step by step and say, this is exactly how this campaign is going to run, even if I were to take some branching paths here. So for persistence on the box, if this new service doesn't work, if it gets prevented, I, as the attacker, will try a different procedure in order to be able to accomplish that same technique. So then I'll try persistence through a startup folder, or I'll try to do persistence through WMI call. Really, the idea is we want to see whether or not we could stop the attacker campaign at all. When we look at the results, that's what's going to show us whether or not we stop them. I go into my history for this, and I see a very binary way of telling me this. This histogram right here is indicating to me that by my yellow line, what was I able to prevent? My gray line, what was I able to detect? So your agents, what did your agents see? Did they do their job? The detections, your integration manager, asking your SIM, asking your other security controls, did you see these attacks that we just ran? And then a combined outcome, think of a Venn diagram, either or, did we stop or see these scenarios as they came in? I can select any of these results anytime I want and review them. I'm going to review this one right here. I can also run these in the context of a given user account. In this case, it's a domain account without administrative privileges. I can see immediately, and this is just the campaign level. Was I prevented? What the agent saw? And using my detections, endpoint and network security controls, did I stop the things that I expected here? And did I see them? I take a closer look. And now I have this visual indicator that says, well, yes, I stopped the campaign. Where did I stop it? The back half being completely shaded out means that we didn't execute these because we stopped the attacker right here at step 4, this bypass UAC. They couldn't do the escalation of privileges, so the campaign stopped. That's the way you get to the micro level details, the information you need to back yourself up. When somebody questions you on, well, this box is red or this box is green, tell us more about why. How did we stop them? Why did we stop them? Could we have done better? So all that information is going to be there to back you up. But let's talk about how to abstract this further up, because you have a lot of campaigns, you have a lot of hosts that you're looking at. So let's get this down to one slide, one easy to digest graph. What we've done for that purpose is injected Jupyter Notebooks here into the platform. So I'm not going to leave the platform. It's right here. There's a hub for that. I'll use that in just a moment to grab my report. But what I want to do is I have right down here, and there's a number of these. I'm going to start with this adversary campaign emulation assessment use case. And I have 3 different audiences here. I have my board of directors audience, my technical management audience, and my technical operations audience. Each of them is going to get a different spreadsheet with a different level of detail based on what they really need to do their jobs. We have other ones built as well for endpoint control policies, network control policies. So we have a number of these notebooks already written based on customer feedback. These are all things that we know that you've been asking for, things that we know are going to be useful to you as you build out those conversations and work with other teams that need access to the information that you get from the use of the AttackIQ platform, doing that continuous security validation. So let's take a look at this audience board of directors tier 1. And by the way, these blueprints are right here. The blueprints are going to show you, with the use of our support portal, a robust set of documentation for these are the steps that you take. This is what you use this Jupyter Notebook for. This is the way that you run that particular kind of conversation. Think back to the slide I had just a couple of moments ago. You have all of the information right here in front of you. This is how you use the notebooks for the given audiences in order to maximize the impact that you have from those conversations using the data that we provide you. So not only giving you all the data, but showing you how to have those conversations. That's what we're doing here for you at AttackIQ. Now, how does this notebook work? I'm going to go back over to here. I'm going to take a look at my Jupyter Notebook. It's now going to launch that Jupyter Notebook right here. So the few pieces that I mentioned earlier, the markdown showing you in plain English, this is what this is going to do for you. This is how this is going to work. I can then go further down and I'd be able to see all of the code that is required to use this because all of the information is sitting right in front of me. I scroll further down, it's going to tell you, hey, this is what it should look like too. So it'll also give you a good idea of what the end product should look like once you're done with it. It does give you some information about how to run this as well. So it tells you if there's any inputs that need to happen here. Where did they go? What are they supposed to look like? How do you get that? Because since we're using the API, we are going to have to use the API key, of course. I scroll further down, I get to my input section. And thankfully, this is nice and easy in that it automatically puts in information for me. So it automatically puts in my platform URL. This is the tendency I'm using right now. It's putting in my account token. And thank you for putting in my account token, knowing that I now have to reset my account token as soon as I finish this call today. And that's fine, I can do that. If there's any other things that need to be put in, but really there's nothing. All of the information that you need is right here. It walks you through everything that happens next, all of the data extraction and the analysis. These are those code blocks I was talking about earlier. What's all of the Python code required to pull the information out, and pull out the relevant information based on what it is that we need here, because we don't need every assessment. We don't need every grouping of those scenarios. We just need the ones that emulate the adversaries. That's all. I then do that extraction of the data, I transform that data, and by the way, this is all great code for you to be able to use as a base if you wanted to do things like start to leverage our API and start to transform some of that data. So all of this is provided to you. And then where all of this stuff goes, eventually does go, because it does create an Excel spreadsheet when it's done. Now, how do I run this? Right up here, cell, if I can click left and not right, cell and run all. What will then happen if I scroll to the top really, really fast, there's going to be a number right here next to wherever we're executing, and then the little star is going to be where we still have to execute. So this will take a minute or two as I go through all of the code here. Now, this is a fairly large environment just in terms of the number of assessments that I have in here. So it'll take just about a minute or two, but that's always going to depend on how much information you have inside of your deployment. But really, it shouldn't be all that long at all. Where you go next after this. Now I'll set this and then I'll just open up another tab so I don't lose where I am here. I do need to initialize my hub. My hub has stopped, and that should only take a second. There it is. I'm not going to go to my hub just yet because I want to wait for the end of this report. What happens at the end of this report, you can see we're already making progress here. It's number 2. What it'll do is you're going to see really nothing after this report's done, and that's by design, because what'll happen is that the report will be automatically dropped into your Jupyter Hub. So it's going to keep moving through the rest of this code right here. You see it does continue to move. It'll keep moving live as you watch it. But what you want to do is then just after that's done, you're going to go right over into the hub and grab that information. Something else to bear in mind, and a little cheat sheet here about this assessment in particular, because I happen to know this data very well. I'm going to go back to this assessment result. I'm going to go back to my history, and you notice right around May, we had a bit of a dip here in May. So I take a look at that data because I want to go back and look at that. It looks like I didn't have things properly configured on the detection side, and I had one of these was completely just not prevented at all. So I had a pretty fair gap right in here. My controls were not properly configured to see everything. I had an asset that didn't have the endpoint agent properly installed on it. So I had this hole right here. So knowing that, as I've gone through the platform, now I'd be able to say, oh yes, if we had the agent installed on this host right here, and if we'd had the instrumentation properly set to do the detections, like we didn't have our SIM set, we didn't have our EDR properly set, and they weren't really talking to AttackIQ, that's why we didn't have these detections, and that's where the gap came from. So you know that in your back pocket. I got that in about 30, 45 seconds just by looking at the platform right at that particular point in time. And that point in time will come up again. So what I've noticed is now there's a little dot right up here, by the way, that indicates whether or not the kernel is busy or idle, and now it's idle. If I look down at the rest of the code right here, all the rest of the code is done. There's numbers next to all of these blocks, so everything is done. What do I do next? Go to my hub. Let's go over to my hub right here. So my hub is now going to show me all of and it has copies of all of the Jupyter Notebooks that are here, as well as my latest reports sitting right here. And I can right click on that, I can download that, and I can go ahead and open up that report. So now when I open up that report, it's then going to show me all of the information related to what I just ran right there. I apologize, that just opened off screen. Let me grab it and bring it up here. There's my enterprise AIQ labs demonstrated threat coverage, same file. I pull that up and let me make this a little bigger and less of an eye chart for you. Now, it automatically generated all of this for me. The only thing I'm probably gonna have to do is just take this and resize the columns a little bit so it makes it a little easier to read. Fantastic. I now make this less of an eye chart again by zooming in on it, and then we can see it. What's happening here, and what do all these colors mean? There's only 3 colors on one of these graphs. What it means is that gray, no data available. We didn't run the test at all during that point in time. The red shows me that there was an example in there where we were neither prevented nor detected. So we neither stopped nor saw one of those attacks. That's a problem. And then the green is we stopped it or we saw it. So we have the instrumentation to be able to find these threats in our environment and hopefully stop them. So all of that is there. We have the capability to find and stop the attackers. What this also gives you is then campaign by campaign, month by month, what's our performance look like? Now, I've been running this APT29 campaign for a very long time. In my mind, in my organization, we've been targeted by this attacker group before using this campaign. We don't want to see us fall victim to this again, so I'm going to keep running this one over and over again and make sure that we don't drift away from the control set that is keeping us safe from this attacker and this type of campaign. So I've been running this for quite a while, and I'm able to stop or see it every month except May. You remember back a couple of minutes ago when I said, let's take a look at May. We already know, because that's going to stick out like a sore thumb when you put that in front of really any board or anyone that says they're immediately going to focus on the red and say, why is that red when everything else is green? Well, this is exactly why. We know the details, we know the problem, we fixed the problem, and now we're back to a green status. The other thing that you can do is you can take a look at some of the titles that are here. So what we do as part of AttackIQ, we take apart different threat actor campaigns, different pieces of malware. We keep pushing them out to the platform. As you get them, you try them out, you test them, you see if you have those gaps inside of your environment where you need more help. So we've run different ransomware families. We've run different types of backdoors. I've run when somebody asked me, hey, do we have RDP access over to the Swift portion of our network for my financial services people out there? Because we noticed an insider threat that was trying to get over to that part of the network. Oh yeah, we ran that for a couple of months and we saw nothing. Or that was blocked. So we know that our controls are good for that. And then as we keep pushing out more content, we try it out. As soon as it comes out, month by month, we're able to see that, yes, we have coverage for all of these new and emerging threats. So the product that you have here, the platform that you have here, the team that you have here is constantly on top of the latest threats. And the instrumentation that we have and the policies that we have set in place for those tools, for the SOC and their process, we're able to stay on top of these things and report back to you that we're working towards making sure that we do not fall victim to these things right here. So that's a big part of the ROI that you have with this type of continuous security validation is that, yes, you want to keep using this type of platform so you show the data that says we're using this and we're using this to make sure that we are protected against the latest threats that are out there, and in addition to the ones that we already know about. So we continue to do this to keep our organizations safe. And that's a great way that you can drive that kind of conversation with the data that says that you are running these exercises and that you are well protected. And if there are more of these red dots that are on the screen right here, you know exactly where the data is and how to drive that conversation that says, well, if I had the EDR on the box during this one, then we would have been able to stop it. So yes, we need to make sure that we continue to ensure that the endpoint agents are on all of our boxes so that we can stop something like this going forward, and that all of our machines are behind the firewall or whatever network security control that we're using for each part of the network. So that's exactly what this graph is telling you in a very, very succinct way. That's the output that you get from it. So that's a demonstration of showing you the origin of the data itself, what we're using to drive that, how you can put that information together using content that we already give you. All of this is here, where you can go to get it. And then, of course, the output that you have from it, along with the way to drive that conversation, giving you all this information, giving you all of these talking points. So that's a fantastic way that you can take extremely technical information and abstract it up so much that you can drive those conversations all right here within the AttackIQ platform. So let me go back into my slides here. So what have we done here? We've demonstrated the transformative storytelling power here, because unlike a PowerPoint where it's just quickly out of date, this helps you drive a real-time data-driven story. And unlike a customized dashboard where that data is, again, just extracted in real time, you're able to get the sequential storytelling element month over month. How are we doing? Provide those visualizations. Anticipate those top-level questions by knowing the data that's going to be there. Evoke those really those thoughtful questions and how we can drive to better decisions as an organization. And that's really the meat and potatoes of my presentation and my demonstration here today. I hope this has been extremely helpful for you. One of the things that I will always talk about here as well is the AttackIQ Academy. The AttackIQ Academy is our online community of informed defenders. It is absolutely free to join. You can join it at academy.attackiq.com. There are many different learning tracks that you can take advantage of there. We have over 32,000 registered students today. Multiple tens of thousands of certificates awarded. By the way, those certificates and those class completions, those count for continuing professional education credits, CPE credits. So think of anyone else out there that has certifications that you need CPE credits for, perfectly good for that. A number of different learning tracks around purple teaming, around MITRE ATT&CK, breach and attack simulation, the things that we're doing here with our platform, and things that you could apply even outside of our platform. We provide this as a free service to the community. It's part of our way of giving back to the information security community. So all of that is there for you. Again, academy.attackiq.com. Please take advantage of that. And if you have any additional questions about either this or anything else that we've gone over today, please feel free to let me know. Did we have any questions in the chat or anywhere, Madison?
No, it doesn't look like we have any questions at this point, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. We're so glad that you were here. And yes, you can always reach out to us at AttackIQ or to Joe personally. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you.